Good morning. My name's Liz Rowlinson, an editor at Place in the Sun, and I'm here this morning with Alejandro Sanchez, or I'm going to call him Alex for ease. Hello, Alex.
Hi, Liz. How are you?
Good, thank you. We're going to talk about tax implications of buying or moving to Spain, something we have so many questions about these days, especially at our exhibitions, of which Alex is a regular part. So, Alex, first of all, can you just tell us about who you are, what you do, and what we're going to talk about in this webinar?
Well, first, I would like to say thank you for the people to watching this video, and thank you for the Place in the Sun to joining me and giving to me this opportunity. As you say, my name is Alejandro Sanchez. Alex Sanchez is easier, I know. I'm a chartered accountant and the director of the firm Legal and Tax in Spain. We are a firm that basically we provide all the services needed for foreigners when they are considering to buy a property, any visa or any kind of visa application, or move to Spain permanent and even start a business. We always focus on the everything because it's important to consider as the movement and they are doing and the handover at the time from England to Spain. We always said that it's not important how you buy the property because the process of the purchase of the property, the conveyancing in general, is always the same. The visa application is similar, but something that we need to consider, especially if you are considering to move to Spain, is the tax plan. Everything is related to taxes because bear in mind that the tax office in Spain, they have 5 years to come to do any searches or checks on anything that has been done. So this is why it's extremely important.
Yes, we'll talk about tax residency and things like that in a sec. But first of all, it's not some people listening might just be buying a property rather than moving to Spain. So first up, shall we talk about if someone wants to buy a property in Spain? Um, well, yeah, if they want to move to Spain and they do want to, they're planning their move with a visa. What are the tax implications?
When someone want to buy a property, want to come to Spain, the first question is, do you want to become tax resident in Spain or not? Because if you become tax resident in Spain, that means that you need to start to organize all your taxes in Spain. What means all your taxes? Your personal income tax, and it's called in Spain Declaración de Renta, where you need to declare your worldwide income. This is why it's extremely important that we know if you are tax resident in Spain or not, and when. First question, when I do become tax resident in Spain? Many people say when I'm over 183 days, that is half of the year plus 1 day. This is not only the case. Although you stay in Spain for 6 weeks, if you are married, not divorced, your spouse is in Spain, and your children underage are in Spain going to school, you could be appointed as a tax resident in Spain. Regardless, you live 9 months 9 months per year in the UK. So it's something that we need to take in consideration. Also, although you are abroad most of the time, if your main interest, economic sources, are in Spain, you could be appointed as a tax resident in Spain. So when someone wants to move to Spain, it's not only how many days, there are other few things to take in consideration. Let me tell you one sample. We have a client that he works on the oil rigs and he swapped the oil rigs. He works in Scotland and Saudi Arabia. Basically, he stays 2 months abroad, 1 month in Spain. He came to me and said, I'm not tax resident. I stay maximum 4 months in Spain per year. But no, his family is in Spain. Children going to school in Spain. The tax office can prove that the family do a daily life in Spain because they have the payments on the credit card with the supermarket, it's electric, utilities, etc. So he will be appointed as a tax resident in Spain, although he lives more than 133 days abroad. So it's something very important to consider.
Gosh, so tax residency is a bit more complex than just a matter of 183 days in Spain.
Unfortunately, on taxes, we say in general, 183 days, in general, the family, in general, the economic resources. We need to check one by one because it's true that although your family lives in Spain, you can apply to be resident in a different country, but you need to apply for it, and it's a process that has to be done. If not, could be problems.
Okay, so thinking about tax residency all along when you're thinking about your plans and your visas is essential.
It's a must.
It's a
And
must.
when, yes, because if not, at the end of the day, bear in mind, and this is why we always say to the people, my always insist to the people, if you are considering to move to Spain, we need to organize the tax plan. And we need to organize the tax plan in advance.
Mm.
Let's say, for instance, that you want to come to Spain in 2026. There are things that we need to consider. Everything in the UK must be organized in 2025. Like what? If you are selling the property in the UK, if you have 25% of the free private pension to withdraw, the type of B incomes or savings that you've got is very important if you receive dividends to organize the dividends on the right way. Because on the year that you are changing the country, we need to organize because if not, you could be penalized on taxes on dividends, things like that. So it's extremely important that we organize this way. Bear in mind that if you stay in Spain over 183 days at the time, the following year, you need to do the taxes. And we need to include the worldwide incomes. One question, Liz, that many people ask is,
Mhm.
can I sell my property in the UK although I'm in Spain and I do not pay capital gains tax? It's possible, but I do not recommend this option. Why? There are a few things to take in consideration. First, I'm not qualified or registered in the UK, but as far as I know, if you are selling your permanent house in the UK, you don't pay capital gains tax at
Yeah,
all.
sure.
Zero. Okay. In Spain, if you do that way, first, you need to be first tax resident in Spain. And when you are selling the property, the exemption on the tax will be only on the percentage that you reinvest. Let's say, for instance, make a sample with easy figures. You are selling one property for €500,000. Forget that we are in the UK, €500,000. You are making profit for €300,000. Okay, I go to Spain and I want to follow this way to buy a property in Spain, selling my permanent house in Spain to buy my permanent house in Spain to avoid the capital gains tax. If I spend €500,000 or more, we can apply for the full exemption because you reinvest the full amount of money. If you are buying a property, let's say for instance for 250,000, only the exemption will be on 150,000. That is 50% of the profit because you reinvest 50% of the selling price. So it's not that simple. And I always recommend to make things easier, the easiest way as possible. Also, it's very important that to get the advantage to avoid to pay capital gains tax in Spain when you are selling the property in the UK, it must be your permanent house in the UK. And it's not that easy to prove. And sometimes, if the tax office requests an inspection to confirm that that was your permanent house, there will be documents, English documents that we need to present, and all of them must be translated into Spanish by a sworn translation with the cost involved, etc., etc. So I think if you do in England, being resident in the UK is 100% exemption. When you move to Spain, there are things to take in consideration that could be or not. So don't get the risk.
Okay.
Proceed on the easiest way, because if not, it could be one time where we can find a surprise with the tax office saying, no, you need to pay that much on capital gains tax on the property that you sold in the UK.
Okay, so yes, so when you sell your UK property and when you become tax resident in Spain is very important to think about.
Yes, the is think and organize at the right time. This is why I recommend to do, for example, if my intention is to move to Spain in 2026, I would recommend to sell the house in 2025.
Not such an easy thing necessarily at the moment with a UK property market, but yes, it's all about long-term planning.
Exactly. I say to the people that for the tax plan, we usually organize on the 12 to 18 months.
Okay, great.
So because you have because it's not only the property. If you have cure-ups or ISAs or dividends, or you have a private pension that you need to withdraw the 25%, there are a few things to organize that must be done in advance. And this is the only way to guarantee that you will not be penalized by the tax office in Spain.
Okay. All right. So if I'm actually buying a property in Spain before I'm resident in Spain, whether I'm going to move or not, what are the tax implications of that purchase?
Okay, if you buy a property in Spain as a holiday maker following the 90 days rules, at the time of the purchase, if you buy a brand new property, you need to pay on top of the purchase price 10% of VAT plus 1 or 2% of stamp duty depending on the region. If you buy a resale, it will be 7 to 10% of stamp duty on the purchase price. Important. On top of that, you need to pay you have other costs at the time of the purchase, like the notaries, the stamp, the land registry, the energy certificate, etc. So many people ask, if I'm buying a house, how much it will be on top on the purchase price? We always say that it would be from 12 to 14%
Hmm.
with no mortgage. If you need a mortgage, it will be 14 to 16. Why? Because with the mortgage, it will be another deed at the notary, it will be another inscription at the land registry, etc., and it will be at the cost. So it's important. Those two taxes, the VAT or stamp duty, depending if it's brand new or second hand, or the cost, just to give you the idea of the full picture of how much it will be the real cost of the purchase of the house. Okay, sorry.
I was just saying it's slightly confusing for UK listeners that that there is the stamp duty in Spain that's called stamp duty, but there's the transfer tax, which you also referred to as stamp duty, which is the ITP on resales,
Yeah.
which is what we kind of know as the big stamp duty tax. So
Yes. Yes.
that's just to explain that. Okay, there's also sort of running costs to consider, aren't there, Alex?
Yes. Okay. You are living in the UK, paying your taxes in the UK, and you have a property in Spain. Do you need to pay taxes? Yes. Which taxes? Council tax. Just to give you an idea, on properties over 300,000, it could be 500 a year. So it's not that much if you compare with the UK. I have seen the cost of the council tax in the UK, and it's huge. You have the rubbish collection, then it could be from 80 to 150 euros. Bear in mind that the council tax and rubbish collections belongs to the townhome. So although the property is the same value, 300,000 euros, if you are in Marbella or if you are in a small village, the cost of the amount on tax on those will be a little bit higher. But it's not a big difference, but it will be higher.
Okay.
Because you are non-resident having a property in Spain, on top of the council tax and the rubbish collection, you need to pay another tax that is called property tax.
Mhm.
Many people say, why do I need to pay the property tax when I'm not renting the property? Because you have a property and you need to pay that tax. And this tax belongs to the tax office. It's a yearly tax. It's paid on the following year when you purchase the property. And again, on properties around 500,000 euros, 300,000 euros, sorry, the property, it would be around 500 a year on the property. So if you are buying jointly, it would be 250 euros each. Okay, I'm living in the UK, paying my taxes in Spain, in the UK, and I have the property tax in in Spain, but now I'm renting the property. You need to pay the rental income tax.
Mhm.
How much is the rental income tax? It's 24% of the income. No reductions allowed.
Mm.
I have good news. It was the other day a sentence from a tribunal because it was a denouncement against the tax office in Spain because the discrepancy of that they cannot deduct any expense. It looks like that it will be, and they won't. It looks like that it may change in the next few months, but I'm not sure yet because obviously the tax office in Spain, they still have the possibility to do allegations, but it looks like that it will be changed and expenses will be deducted, but not yet.
That's interesting because, yes, that was a Brexit change, wasn't it? That whilst we were in the EU, I think it was 19% with deductions. And then after Brexit, it was 24% without deductions.
Yes, the
Yeah.
difference is if you are tax resident, it's not only Brexit, it's your tax residency. Let's say, for instance, that you are British living in France. You are paying your tax is 19% of the profit. So where you can deduct some of the expenses. If I'm a Spanish living in the UK and I pay my taxes in the UK, it will be 24% of the income. So yes,
Yes.
non-EU residents, 24% of the income, EU residents, 19% of the profit.
Brilliant. Okay. And then if I'm resident in Spain and
Yeah.
I'm buying a property because maybe I rented first to sort of find my way, get my visa, etc. What are the tax implications of buying whilst I'm a resident in Spain?
If you buy a property, the initial expenses or the initial taxes are the same, regardless if you are resident or non-resident. The VAT on a brand new property is the same, 10%, 1-2% on stamp duty if it's a brand new property, or 10% of stamp duty if you are buying a resale. The council tax, it would be the same, and the rubbish collection will be the same. The difference is you don't pay the property tax
Right.
and you don't pay the rental income tax. You don't pay this way. What you need to do in Spain is what is called declaración de renta. Then it will be following year for 2025. It will be in June 2026, considering your worldwide incomes. If you have the property, you don't pay the property tax. You just pay the salaries, pensions, dividends, whatever you receive. And if you rent the property, you include on the declaración de renta, on the equivalent of the P60. That's it. This is why and when, because you declare the worldwide income, as I said before, it's extremely important to organize everything in advance. Timing, taxes are the keys. If you want to sell the property, we need to organize. If you want to get the 25% of the pension, we need to organize. Dividends, extremely important. People get dividends, and if they do on the year that they are changing the country, they would be penalized. QROPs, ISA. So there are few things that we need to organize in advance, because as soon as you become resident, you will pay all your taxes in Spain.
Okay. Right. So we've covered all the tax implications of the sort of purchasing of the property. What about how do I actually move to Spain legally, in terms of residency visas?
Okay, if you want to move to Spain, maybe you are lucky, you or spouse have European passport, so we go straight to the residencia. So easy, almost straightforward, and you are allowed to live and work in Spain from the very beginning. If not, we have non-EU passports. We need to organize one of the visas that we know. If you want to move to Spain because you are retired, you don't want to work in Spain, the easiest way it will be to organize the non-lucrative visa. The non-lucrative visa is where you are allowed to come to Spain, live in Spain. Extremely important. Become tax resident in Spain. Taxes in Spain. Important. We need to organize the tax plan. For the basic requirements on the non-lucrative visa are the incomes. That is around 29 for the individual, 35 for the couple. We have the ACRO, that is the criminal records for the last 5 years on the countries of your residency. So depending where you live on the previous 5 years, you need to apply for the ACRO, the medical certificate. It will be also at the time of the incomes, important that I didn't mention before, it's not that you have the money into the bank account. It could be that you have pensions. You may have passive incomes. You may have savings. You may have, I don't know, curos. Any kind of money or investment that you have, we will take in consideration. Because what we want to do is at the time of the application, we want to present on a way to make it easier to accept. Important with the NLB, on top of that, you need to get the private medical insurance. But if you are a pensionist in the UK, you can get what is called the S1, and it's a certificate from the NHS, and you will not need the private medical insurance in Spain. So it's a big saving. It's a lot of
Yeah.
money.
But you have to be UK state pension age to do that.
Yes, it's a must. Some people, what they do, for example, they people move at 65. So at 65, they get a private medical insurance for the initial application, and 1 or 2 years later, when they become pensionists, they get the S1, they stop the private medical insurance, and they use the Spanish NHS. And to be honest, it's quite good.
And also, I've learned that if one of you is of UK state pension age and has the S1, the other one can access it via them.
Yes, because what we do is we present the application at the time for jointly with the S1 for the one that is already retired. And at the time to get the medical card, we need to get first for the person that is a pensionist, and later we get the one that is for the dependent of the spouse. And it's a big difference on the cost.
Sure. And when you mentioned about if you have an EU passport, it's easier to get get a residencia. It's also if your spouse has an EU passport, you can do the same, can't you?
Yes, exactly. If one of the spouse has a EU passport, what we organize is the residencia for the EU passport. And as soon as everything is completed for the spouse with the EU passport, we do the application for the UK passport. And it's so easy and so quick. So with one European passport on the couple is enough. But must be married or civil partnership. There is not enough partner for 20 years with 15 children. No, you must be married because we need to present documents. It's extremely important, bureaucracy in Spain.
Okay. And just to add that you apply for the non-lucrative visa from the UK before you go through the BLS, which is a third party company that works on behalf of the Spanish consulate in the UK.
Yes, the non-lucrative visa is important, and the initial application must be done in the UK.
Yeah.
It's impossible to organize in Spain. It's a disadvantage because sometimes the people want to move to Spain and they cannot because they need to present the passport, they give the passport. So, and for the last few months, there's some delays on BLS on the application. So, but I hope so that will be resolved soon. And again, we start to have the answers for everyone in 2-3 weeks, I used to be, and that will make things easier. But yes, initial application in the UK, the NLB is for 1 year, 2 years, 2 years. After 5 years, you can apply for the residencia, but you cannot be out of Spain for more than 10 months over the 5 years. Important. So the initial year must be done BLS in the UK, and from there onwards, we can organize the renewal in Spain. But bear in mind about the timing out of Spain, because it could be rejected at the time of the residencia after 5 years.
Just before we whiz on to the next visa, it should be emphasized that when you renew after 1 year, then 2 years, as you say, you have to have the double the yearly income, don't you?
Yes.
So I interviewed a nice couple of British people who were moving to Spain this week, and they deliberately didn't overspend on the property they bought in Spain because they knew they would have to have X amount of thousands in the bank for the next 5 years.
This is why I always say that we need to organize things with the people with time in advance, because it's a plan. Because if you sometimes it's not needed for them to have the funds, because we may consider that the pensions that they have are enough for the 2 years, although they don't have the savings. If they are not having a high pension, they're having a lower pension, they need to have some money on the bank or some kind of investment, because if not, at the time of the renewal, will be rejected. And now, unfortunately, they are checking massively the incomes at the time of the application and at the time of the renewal. It's something that they used to be more flexible, but now no. They check up to the last penny.
So for a couple renewing their NLV, it would be 37,000 euros times two.
Twice. Yeah,
Okay.
2 times.
Great. Okay, whizzing on to the digital nomad visa, also popular. Could you just briefly give us the bare essentials of that, please?
Let's gonna say first was the digital nomad visa. The digital nomad visa is a peculiar visa in the way that you are allowed to come to Spain, to live in Spain, but you must be working for companies abroad. So let's say, for instance, that I am an employee or self-employed in the UK, and I want to work from Spain. Can I do that? Yes. Will you be appointed as a tax resident in Spain? No. You are living in Spain, but you pay taxes in Spain only for the income that you make on the work that you do in Spain with international companies. I know that is a little bit difficult to
Complicated.
understand, but yeah, it's difficult to understand, but this is how it works. So you have to have your taxes in the UK for your assets, and you have your taxes in Spain for the income on the salary. On this income, if you are on a high level bracket of taxes, it's very good, because you can apply for what is called, or the people call, Beckham law, where you will get a 24% flat for 5 years on your incomes. And if you are, as I said before, if you are on a high level bracket, it's a very good option. The requirements is, instead of 37, it would be 45,000 euros per couple, plus 6,000 per children, and the medical certificate, etc., etc. Important. This visa, I would recommend to apply in Spain. You can do in Spain or UK. I would recommend to do in Spain,
Is it
because
true? I was going to, sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, is it true that if you apply in the UK, you get it for a fewer years than if you apply for it in Spain?
yes, well, the time of the time of this visa may vary, but it's not the time. Is if you present the digital nomad visa in the UK, we need to present everything at the consulate, and it's not easy to deal with them. If we present in Spain, we present at the Unidad de Grandes Empresas. It's the one of the head office in Madrid. So it's a lot easier to organize, because they are more on this matter, and if it's any problem, time of allegations is always easier to present in Madrid than at the consulate. The big difference here, or the main thing to consider with the visa is if you are self-employed, okay, so you need to prove that you have those incomes. You need to prove that you have contracts. You need to prove that you have the invoices to the clients. You need to prove that you receive the money into your bank account. There are few requirements. If you are an employee and the company give you the permission to come to Spain, the company must be registered in Spain to do the contract. So not many companies want to do it. And if you are working for the government as a civil servant on any kind of office, it will not be accepted because at least my experience, always when the people are working for different town halls, university, any public institution, they don't give the permission to work abroad.
Yes.
So it's something also to take in consideration.
That is, it's generally 3 years, though, the digital nomad visa.
Yeah,
More typically, I know you said it varies, but
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, initially it's usually for 3 years in Madrid, and later we can renew for another 2, and then Residencia. If you apply for the Beckham law, it's for 5 years only. After 5 years, you become resident in Spain and you are on the normal tax rates with the
Okay.
worldwide incomes. Important.
Okay, whizzing. Oh, we're sort of there's so much to cover. We're sort of running out of time. But you touched on about having a business or being self-employed. It's a bit more complicated to move to Spain from cold if you're self-employed. But I know I've interviewed people who've gone on a non-lucrative visa, had some time off, and then set up a business. But what is the process of if you briefly if you want to move to Spain to do that?
Well, if you want to, with the digital nomad visa, if you are self-employed in the UK, when you is accepted and you move to Spain, you must be registered as self-employed in Spain. Okay, this is one requirement that I didn't mention before. For example, let's say for instance you come to Spain and for different reasons, one of the visa or since May the law changed and other are now other options to come to Spain to work and stay legally in Spain working that we may consider, but we don't have the time today. That if you want to start in Spain, you have two options. One, well, you have more, but the main two are self-employed or having a limited company. Self-employed is simple. You are registered on the tax office and Social Security. Social Security is the equivalent of the NHS. That means that you will get full access to the medical assistance, you, spouse, and children, paying the contributions on the Social Security. And you need to pay quarterly and yearly your taxes to the tax office. Self-employed is convenient for small businesses, and when you don't have any business that is running by you, your spouse, or you and one employee. When you have something bigger, I strongly recommend to set up a limited company because there are more protections on the meaning of the personal assets. And again, with a limited company, although you are the director of the limited company, you are registered on the tax office and you need to pay taxes quarterly and yearly. And you need to do what is called the autonomo, that is like a self-employed, because you are an employee of yourself. You are the director of the company. If you have employees, they are on a PYE and they pay contributions, that's different, but you are on the autonomo, exactly the same. The process for the self-employed is very easy. The only thing that you have to have is an address. The address and your NIE or visa that allow you to work in Spain. And then in 24, 48 hours, it can be done. Limited company? No, because we need to get the name of the company from the register in Madrid. We need to go to the notary, must be done the inscription into the company's house, and may take a couple of months easy in Spain. So if you want to start a business on your own, a small business, let's gonna consider self-employed, lot cheaper even the accountancy fees. Limited company is when you want to do a bigger business with employee, or you have a joint business with more than one person. That is another option to do. Taxes in Spain for companies or self-employed are quarterly, and in January we present the summary of the year. That is something to pay or not, depending on the. It's again a long time to speak about, to explain all the needs and the requirements, etc.
Sure. It gets a bit more complicated if you're running a business in Spain, doesn't it? So it's even more essential to have expert tax advice.
For a limited company, for if you want to start a business, it's extremely important to talk to an accountant. I'm a chartered accountant. So because it's not many times the people come with a small business and someone set up a limited company. Why? It's not needed. It's a big cost at the beginning because you need to pay the notary, you need to pay the land reg, the company's house, etc. So sometimes I try to adjust to minimize the cost and the size of the business when it's not needed. Because, okay, you start a project just yourself, you can be self-employed, 6 months, it's going well, we may consider to change into a limited company. But at the beginning, maybe it's not needed. And it's not only that, it's to explain to you how the Spanish system works, because it's not the same than in the UK. What kind of expenses I may deduct on my taxes, how I need to present and provide information to the tax office, how I need to organize my files at the time if we have an inspection. So there are many things to take in consideration that we organize at the very beginning. And I always say to the people, when they are dealing with businesses, any question, ask, because you must be learning. You change from one country to the other, and I do understand, and I know it's not the same.
Brilliant. Well, look, thanks, Alex. There's so much information there. I think people's heads will be exploding with useful nuggets there, and people can ask you at our property exhibitions, can't they, in terms of getting further information on any of that. They can
Yes.
contact you direct at your office, or can you just whiz us through what are the next steps?
Well, basically what it is I would recommend to organize everything with time. They can contact us at the shows with the Place in the Sun Live, because we're always there, or they can send us an email, and it would be info@legalandtaxinspain.com or alex@legalandtaxinspain.com to ask, and we can organize a Zoom call to have a personal update of the needs, questions, etc. Bear in mind, and as I say, the key here is taxes, taxes, taxes. In the process of the purchase of a house, in the process of the visa, in the process of a business, whatever you want to do, we need to organize your tax plan in advance to be ready at the time that you're moving to Spain, just buying or moving to live to Spain, and minimize everything. And if they contact us by email, what we can do is we will organize a Zoom call. We have a conversation with the person or with the client, and will try to give to them the initial steps to organize the process.
Thank you. Yes, we cannot escape tax. So that's the boring bit of having an exciting new life.
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not.
But many people still think it's worth the benefits of a new life in Spain. So thank you very, very much, Alex. That was really interesting. Hope that was useful to anyone listening. Look forward to seeing you again at our Birmingham exhibition, and then Manchester next year, as anyone else can come and meet you in person then. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz. See you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.